Hello, this is Gerald, Johan van Waas, an educational channel of demonstrations regarding the sounding form theory. And here I will have a full review once more of the theory that shows you how you can actually quite quickly understand where each of the letters in language refers to. It is a reference to a very specific placement in time and space, and the combinations of letters are variations of directions that guides you in which direction you have to think. It is not known that this exists, but we deal with it simply because it's our way of thinking. Our mind wants to have a system, uses only systems that are as simple as possible. And one of these simplicities is an orientation that is balanced. How are the things balanced? They are always balanced in a similar way. And that's how I will resume this balance of estimation once more, the estimation of how a balance can be. And this balance can be sensed in letters, and these letters have this balance, and the way how this balance is balanced out is also at the same time the directions in which the words are expressing themselves. Unconsciously so far, but I will make it conscious much more than it ever was before. And here I will show you the three regions of focus in letters. There's a region of orientation in space, there's an orientation in time, and there's our mind itself, the organization of our focus. So it's adaptation, it's the suggestion that you have to change something. Only that is the full perspective of our behaviorism. It's an organ of behaviorism we have inside, and we follow it, and it follows these rules. These rules are quite simple. I will explain them once more. Here they are expressed quite simply. So there are three regions in which our mind focuses. Why three? Because three is a very simple number of organization of making a difference. As you have the binary system, which is yes and no, with the more advanced thinking, it's not just yes and no, but it's I try to be yes first, so it's our starting point. I try to find my yes, so there's already a doubt in it. It's a confirmation of yes then at the second degree. And then when it's no longer fitting, it is directing towards no. So it is not a yes and no, it's always around a doubtful moment of going towards yes. And that's the number. The number is yes. It's one of the numbers that you have. It's the number of positioning of that you're sure that where you are. And then the doubt again. These are the three sections. It's like a growing peak. And this growing is the going towards one. Then you have the one. And it's then less than one. And it goes to number two. And whatever it is. It's the variations of sections that we follow. It's very simple. You're sure of it. So it's somewhere in the middle. You are developing it further, so you go from the middle and you add more material. As soon as you have too much material, you are no longer sure this it still fit within my frame. It's at the edge, it's at the third section. These three sections are always there. These 3 in 3 are easy to follow. There, so the numbers are the same. It's 3 times 3. It's 3 times 3 dimensions as well. It's 3 times 3 numbers, it's 3 times 3 points, and so on and so on and so on. It's always the number 3. So where are my sections here? And I will give you resume at the end. So these sections start with the section that where I try to focus on the object of focus, that's the number, that's the first region. So you have the numbers 1, 2 and 3 there. So you have 1 or 2 or 3 different objects that you can see at the same time, and still be sure that you're having a reference point attached to it as well, an association attached to it as well. With more than that, it will be confusing. So we always keep it to 3. So the first 3 numbers have 3 regions or 3 ranges of values, and that's all about placement. The second section is not about placement. That's where something is moving, something is changing, and that's a different way of looking at things. You see that it is evolving towards somewhere else. It's evolving to something else. So your visualization is already adapting to time. There's an element of time, there's an element of change. So you will follow the arrows, let's say. You will follow the arrows where things are going, in which direction. And in the last section, the last way of looking at things, so you either have an object which is fixed in space, or something is changing and it's not fixed in space, but it is moving away to somewhere else, to another position, to another form, whatever that is. And the last section is like you're not looking very well. You have to adapt to a better focus. Your focus isn't correct anymore, or we can't use the same focus anymore. Just we have to have a readaptation, and we do that according to context. According to the context, we will adapt to the main context, main rules, and so on. That are the letters which are adapted there. So there are 9 places, but at this in the numerical order there are only 7 letters attached there, because they are somewhere lying there in the middle. So we have 3 points that you are sure about, and then in the middle of them, and then in the middle of the middle of them, and in the middle of the end of them, you have 2 main focuses. It's at the end of the system. You're trying to balance even the system out there. That's what it is. And now the simple way, and everybody should understand this time, from where I'm going to start from now. So why do we only have 3 focuses? Because you can describe everything that you describe, you can describe with words, you can describe with this system. This system needs the orientation with these 3 sections in 3, and you don't need anything else for it. So what do you have in the first section? You have the placement. You try to place, you try to pinpoint the place where you can start from. Here you have 3 kinds of different focuses on a middle point. So so it is really, you're sure, yeah, we are at the middle of things. This is the middle point. It is that, it's the A. With just 1 focus I have it. With 2 focuses in the middle I have the U, and with 3 focuses in the middle I have the C. These are the 3 options of a middle focus, with 1 object in the middle, 2 or 3. Don't need anything else. That's only what you have as a centralized focus. These are the 3 centralized focuses. Just to add a little bit more extra, I will tell you that the second section is also about the volume, because you start to give attention to the material that you start to assemble there. While in the A, the first center, you only start from the center point of your starting points. And at the C, when you have more material and more material is accumulating, you start to notice the differences. These are also the 3, and the limits and the edges and so on. These 3 regions have a whole way of associating the things with it. But in a way, they are also simple and simplistic, and we know how to associate with them. Also because our mind is not distracted. It's very simple. It's in the middle. Oh, it's a bit further away, or a bit even further away. You also have these three sections the whole time, but it's still centralized. So the first idea is a centralized idea with 1, 2, or 3. The second thing is no longer centralized, but really the mind focus is no longer centralized. In the U you had that also, I had the distraction, but I kept my mind centralized. But here in the T, I really get my centralized focus out of focus, and I centralize entirely on the surroundings, on the material. So I have the T. With the number 2 I have the L, and with the number 3 I have the M. It's all about the material in 1, 2 or 3 positions. Very simple actually. And the last section is then when your focus is really at the edge. It's at the with 1, 2 or 3 differences that you notice there. So it's K, B or X. And of course it's all also about the focus completely kept in the middle, or already in the volume part, or already at the edges. This is all you need to understand the letters. You can have a lot more associations with it as well, and they help you to understand how you use it, what's the behavior when you have these starting points and so on. That's very extensively explained in my book, but actually this is the basics. This is the basics, and that's enough actually to understand its positions, its distinction. That's where the distinctions start from, and that's what I'm talking about right now. The second section, the second region, the second way of focus, this is about focusing in space, about the positions. Second one is when these positions are somewhat vague and they seem to evolve to something else, so it's not just consistent anymore. So there is this consistency, it's changing. So my focus point, any focus point is changing or is moving, and my attention goes to the moving part. That's the D. When the moving is in the section of the volume, you have a moving in, of course. When you have your movement that you notice at the edges, at the periphery, at the borders, it's more like a moving out, the Y there. With the number 2, it's not just moving, it's not moving your center, it's moving from one position to another, so it is evolving. That's the association you can make very easy. If you add material, so you're not just moving material, but you're adding up material, you're moving position. That's the O, where you can move positions. You can move positions in time, you can also move them in space, but it's movement. And the Z and the W are both in the diagonal section, so, and there with number 2, it's from one position to another, so you try to balance it out. The Z is the balance from within, the W is the balance from outside. It's depending on your focus. Which one of the focuses will you use? That's our balance. And with the number 3, we still have 3 letters that we have left, the G, the F and the P. So it is when we move 3 positions, so it's 1, 2, 3, we bridge a moment actually, we bridge it, so it's also a movement, we're bridging something towards somewhere else. The F is, you go from one position to 2, so it is dispersing, it is extending, it's extending the amount of possibilities as well. So you have more from one position to more positions. It is as a form of extension of possibilities. The P is it's the opposite. Is you go from two positions to one. So it's you're concentrating. You're resuming the situation. So you're moving towards a solution. That's the idea. That's your focus. These are the 9 focuses of changes. You don't need much more than that. Actually, you don't. So what are your kind of focuses that you used here? You had a centralized focus where you said, okay, I see the move with D, E, and G. I see it. I see where it moves in 1, 2, or 3 parts. Or you're focusing on the middle section and you say, okay, no, I see that the material is the move. There is the move, or moving, or changing. Or I see no, it's there at the edges. So that's where the move is. The move is going to a change. It's going out. It's going towards a change in 1 position, 2 positions, or in 1, 2, or 3 parts. That's where my change is. That's what I notice. You don't need much more than these 3 focuses. These are the main focuses, and in this case, in the second section, it is about move. The last section is our getting back to order. So we don't have, we're no longer sure if we still have the right focus. It's becoming too complicated. It's the end of the section, the end of the possibilities. But our mind tries to find a solution of things that doesn't work anymore. And how does that go? Also with actually 9 kinds of focuses, but it's somewhere in the middle. So we have only 7 kinds of focuses that are expressing this. These are a bit more complex in a way to experience, because it's about our focus. Our focus has to go back to a balance. The focuses were still in these 3 sections, 1, 2, or at the edge, and that will be the main focus. So we re-establish, so we go back to the middle point. We try to focus. That's the cue. We go back to the material. We collect the material. We collect it. We give it an order. We go back to the borders. We try to limit ourselves. It is about limitations. That's the G. And in between these sections, which sections I have the middle point, and I have then the middle section, the volume part, and I have the edge. In between these 3 sections, you can have a combinations of focuses. You try to focus back to a centralized position, combined with what still fits within your region of space. That is the H. It's know your limits. It's within our limits that we can understand, and we still have a centralized focus, and we have all the material. Within that section, we know our limits and we can work with it. That's the H. Keep your focus on the limits that you know. The H is your consciousness as well, of your understanding as well. That's the whole section of what you understand. That's your space of knowing. That's what you have there. I never explain things twice in the same way. I try to explain them in as much differences as you can. People tend to fall back on consistent ideas that always are expressed in the same way. I try not to do that. There are so many variations of the same thing that it is in the variations that you know how it works and so on. It's variations of the same thing, but I will never name the thing itself, because not because I don't know what it is, but because when you see it from different angles, you will understand it better as long as you understand it. Kung Fu works in the same way. it would be foolish to say, okay, this is a slash, you will always have to slash it this way, because it's just a little bit to the right or the left. You have to have it instinctively to know. I explain it, it's a slash, but sometimes I explain it as a slash like this, or sometimes as a slash, it's always a slash, but you have to participate, you have to anticipate. There's a way how it behaves. That's why I explain the elements, the letters, differently within the same context. I have this full system always explained within the same kind of frame, the same kind of things, but they are slightly different each time when I explain it, and I have my reasons to do so. But understand what it is. If you are remembered, okay, H is about the connections what you make within a space, it's okay, that's correct. But why is that so? What does that do to our focus? That's what I do, what I'm explaining now. What does that element, what does that position of H do in our consciousness of how we are dealing with the positions there? The positions are always there within a certain range. How does that give that a reaction to us? How does that makes that a suggestion to us that we are going to use the H somewhere? It is going from a center, going not to the border, but to the whole range of elements that fit within that behaviorism, that can live within that range. There everything will be interconnected in H. So there are a lot of explanations that you can do there, but it's when we are talking about focus, it is really like focus from the middle to whatever material it is. Know what I can do with the material, that's my range. That's my range, what I can do with it. That's the H. The R is from the material, extended towards the limits what you can do now, with what the material itself can do. So use the material within its own limits. That's the suggestion that you get in with the R. And the last letters are also within the same range, but they are really about the full system, what you're working with it. So it is still the same range of H, the same range of the whole material, which is following the rules of the limitation of a starting point and the rules of what material that I have in perspective to the centralized idea what I want to do with it, and then adapt that to somewhere else, adapt that to wherever I can use it. So I use my old material and so on, and I use it somewhere else because I have an idea how it works. So I have an idea of the limits, and I even shouldn't follow the rules anymore. They follow the rules themselves. They behave themselves like the rules. So I have a new idea, that's the E. I have a new idea where I can put the rules into use. That's what the E does. The other way around, it's the same thing. It goes from the material to the whole range of what the material can do. This what the material can do also will have an effect. That's the other position. It will. I can't read the words there anymore, but I wrote it's possible beyond the limits. Yeah, so it is. So it's the effect what the things will have on us. So when we hear the S, is very suggestive that it says like, yeah, but the material works like that as well. Deal with it, that it also has a working on its own, even if you don't grasp it. It's there, it has a reason why it has that effect on you, because simply it has these features. So that was a resume of all the letters once more, and I hope it can help you. Go to the letters, try to form some words and formulate some of it, and see if you already understand them, where your mind is directing yourself towards it, how we have to deal with these things, that we name it in a certain way. Because that's what the language will do. They will have combinations of variations that shows you a suggestion that, or expresses a suggestion that actually says like, it is this object and you have to deal with it in that way, or it is this idea, yeah, please act according to it. That's what the language does with all the words. Okay, that was it. In the next video I will have some examples. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.